Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a calm conversation meant to help you lull yourself to sleep or bring you to sleep or have sleep in front of you and maybe you just embrace it. I'm your host, Marco Timpano, and joining me today is Amanda, but not the Amanda you might be thinking of. I have a special guest who's in the studio. Amanda Cupido is here with me today. And before I get Amanda to say hello, I just want to say Amanda is one of the reasons I was able to bring this podcast to you, our listeners. Because when I started podcasting, I didn't know what I was doing or how to do it. And Amanda's book was the first book, and it was a quintessential book for me on my podcast journey that brought me here today. So it's a great honor for me to welcome Amanda Cupido to the podcast today.
Thank you, Marco. That's so nice. I'm like blushing over here.
You wrote a wonderful book, and there's a few things that I really loved about it. One, that it was written by a Canadian podcaster. And as a Canadian podcaster at the time, there was so few of us out there and there was so few of our stories being told. And I just was so grateful. So thank you so much for bringing that book to light.
Oh, well, you're so welcome. And I started writing it in 2016.
Wow.
And then it came out in 2018. And so much has changed since then. But I was very aware that the Canadian landscape specifically didn't have a lot of literature, and I was happy to add to it.
I should mention to our listeners, it's called Let's Talk Podcasting, the Essential Guide to Doing It Right. And second edition is coming out, isn't it, Amanda?
It's here. I'm so excited to share it with the world. This has been a long time coming, and there's a lot that's changed in the world, but in podcasting for sure. So it's a great time for a new edition and 6 new chapters.
6 new chapters, behind the scenes, all kinds of things that your readers will be able to grasp onto, get information that they need to start podcasting. I can't recommend this book enough. I teach a podcasting course and it's on my reading list, just so you're aware.
Thank you.
If you're interested in reading about podcasting, starting your own podcasting journey, start here. And you can get this book at letstalkpodcasting.com. Is that correct?
That's it. Letstalkpodcasting.com.
And I will have that link in our show notes for anyone who wants to go out there. Along with the book, you have a couple of podcasts, and I'm happy to say that you're the first person from another sleep podcast to be on our podcast. So you have a sleep podcast called How to Fall Asleep Fast.
Yes. So this is new.
How old is this podcast?
It just launched in June, so it's still pretty new, but we've been receiving such positive feedback. It's been charting all over the world. We hit #1 in the leisure category on Apple within the first 2 months. And so we've just been overwhelmed with the response.
Congratulations. That's so wonderful. You know, I say the Insomnia Project is about how to fall asleep slowly. Some of our listeners will always be like, I made it halfway through your episode and I have to go back. And it's like, no, you don't have to finish the episode I'd like you to fall asleep before you get to the end, but our listeners tend to go back. So that's so great. What is one thing that's come out of doing that podcast that surprised you?
Well, and I write about this in the book because I had never actively tried to hit #1 on Apple. And so This was me trying to work the system. And we tried to push the boundaries along the way. And so How to Fall Asleep Fast, I know we laugh because, falling asleep slowly sounds much more relaxing. But How to Fall Asleep Fast is the most Googled term around sleep.
Oh.
So this was an SEO, a search engine optimization play. So in Canada, the US, the UK, and Australia, #1 searched phrase. So that's how we really were responsive to the community that tended to need sleep. And that's how we came up with the name. We did a lot of focus groups before we released episodes on what was helping people sleep, what kind of length of episode. And so the episodes include a 1-minute meditation from me and then a 1 hour original composition from my husband, which most of them include binaural beats. So these are different frequencies in each channel in your ear, creating a third perceived frequency
Oh,
that is
wow.
scientifically proven to help bring you into a theta or delta state of mind, which is
Oh,
for sleep. Yeah.
I love that. I wish that chapter was in the book when I read it, because The Insomnia Project is one of the worst titles of a podcast that I have. And it was just a lark that we used it as the title of our podcast, because I didn't think I could podcast at the time, or I thought it was going to be such a challenge, that it was born from a Nuit Blanche exhibition. So we're like, maybe
Mm.
if we do it as an exhibit at Nuit Blanche, we'll be able to figure out the podcasting angle of it. And that's how it got its name. And
But
at
that's
this point,
art. That's great art.
right, right.
That's good.
So your other podcast is called Forefront. And can you
Yes.
tell us about that?
Yes. So the Forefront Ideas for Cities is the series, and I'm the host of it. And it is a narrative podcast produced in conjunction with Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly Ryerson. And so the idea is we take big problems that Canadians are facing and then look at the research that's coming out of the university and think tanks and the community around it. They're helping to try to solve that big problem. So some of the problems are like loneliness in aging populations,
Of course.
right? A big thing that the National Institute of Aging has done some research around in Canada specifically. Another problem is inclusivity in the fashion industry. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
profile a fashion designer who's included Braille on her designs and on clothing.
How
So
wonderful.
really neat stories, really interesting. Um, these are all in the upcoming season that's just launched, that season 5. But even if you go in the back catalog, a lot of the issues are really interesting to learn about and to really think about. There are issues that might be around us that we don't even really realize how prevalent they are, or what kind of work is being done to try to combat it.
Wow, that's fascinating. So Forefront, once again, you'll find these. I'll have links to this in the show notes, and you can hear Amanda as the host of that podcast. Do you have any other podcasts on the horizon that you can mention?
Oh, well, I always have podcasts on the
Mhm.
horizon. I will say I'm in development with a really exciting one that
Ooh,
pits two industries against each other. I'll
oh, I
just say
love this.
that. Yes.
Will you
And
let us know when this is going to launch so we can mention it on our podcast?
I would be happy to. Yes, you could stay tuned. That'll be in 2025.
Okay, fantastic. Something to look forward to. Let me ask you this. What's the most interesting thing you've learned as a podcaster?
Wow, that's such a great question. I think I'm learning all the time is the
Of course.
reality. And because the industry is changing and even what's considered a best practice is changing. A personal growth for me is actually getting into the sleep space and even
Okay.
learning how to use my voice in a different way. I'm usually a broadcast, like I've been a trained broadcast journalist. And so even right now, I'm being so intentional. I'm trying to be softer with my voice, and that was a good growth for me, where some people, this kind of tone and pacing comes really naturally, where I had to really practice how do I use my voice in a different way other than going into broadcast mode, which is my default.
Yeah, channeling into that part of your voice, that part of your being that can slow things down. I know I always have a challenge with it. One time we
Mhm.
did an episode about cutlery, and
Okay.
my co-host, at like, we have these, we do symbols like this, especially for me, when because I speed up and I get very energized, so I'm basically moving my hands up and down, back and forth, and that's the symbol that Amanda will use with me, Amanda Barker, my co-host, or Nidhi would use to me to tell me you need to slow down. And I did this
Mhm.
cutlery episode where all of a sudden I started talking about ladles, and I got really excited and really dynamic, and they're all like, you talked about ladles and you really got excited, and I'm sure you woke people up, and they're like,
Oh,
why ladles? And I go,
yeah.
I have no idea on any given day. Uh,
That's so funny. But I think that also just goes to show who you are as a person. And if you could find joy in little things like ladles, I think life becomes a lot happier. So kudos to you.
You know what's funny? I studied journalism too. I did a joint program with York University and Seneca College. So journalism was one area that I was thinking of getting into when it, when my path turned into comedy and then comedy, theater, film, and podcasting. And so I've done quite a few things to get me here today. Uh, I just think it's interesting that both of us are podcasters. Both of us are Canadian podcasters and have a background in journalism. How did you find your way to podcasting?
Yes, and I think that's also really indicative of the medium as a whole. People have these windy roads to podcasting, which I
Yeah.
actually think is quite interesting, and it can really, you'll be surprised who ends up here. But I found my way to podcasting in a more linear way than most, which was that I was studying journalism and radio and audio, and I was in the audio world professionally and always, but really loving it and truly wanting to explore and make some extra money. And so
Oh.
I started making podcasts on the side. I had made some as a student before most of my friends even knew what podcasts were. But I had been making them on the side since I started working in radio. And as I continued into my radio journey, I just kept banging on about podcasts until they became popular enough to to warrant some attention, at least from some of the places I was working. And so my first podcast was in 2010, was for a magazine, and I was doing it just on the side for them. I was brought on to be a writer, but insisted I also make them a podcast. And if you look very hard, that podcast still exists on the internet, in the depths of the internet.
Okay.
But then I didn't, and then I was at one point working in a communications role at a nonprofit, and I called myself an intrapreneur because within the organization it was a legacy organization, and I brought a lot of new ideas, and I produced several podcasts for them. And that's when I got a lot of great case studies. I had some clients on the side. My book came out, and then I finally took the plunge to launching my own podcast production company, Lead Podcasting, in 2020.
That's
So,
wonderful. Do you
yeah,
remember the first podcast you listened to?
you know, it's so hard because I was probably listening to some weird audio stuff that was being uploaded, but the one that like sticks in my mind, a couple that stick in my mind of really early days, was that I was listening to Spark CBC
Okay.
with which was a technology podcast, and it was like a radio show but also uploaded online as a podcast, and I loved that show. And I also listened to 99% Invisible.
Okay.
And I remember there was this like episode about the design of barcodes. And I also listened to an episode about the design of the revolving door. And I like so clearly can picture myself sitting in the back seat of my parents' car, listening to these audio
Oh my
stories
goodness.
from, yeah, and or telling them about it. And I don't even know how I was accessing them. I didn't have an Apple iPhone, but I had one of the very, very early Apple iPods.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if it was like I downloaded an app through there. It was when the iPod looked like an iPhone, but it was just an iPod. And if
Amazing.
you remember that
Yes,
iteration
I do.
of
I
Apple,
remember my friend wanted it for Christmas, and it was a really big purchase because that
it's so
particular
expensive too.
w- iPod could hold a lot more than the
Yeah,
smaller ones that you could just kind of scroll like that with, right? If I'm not mistaken.
that's
Uh,
right. That's
you,
right. So
one of my biggest challenges for this podcast is coming up with topics for the show, and you've given me two: barcodes and revolving doors. So I've written that down.
oh,
Those
love
are two
that.
topics I have not
Let's
talked about.
go.
Are you a techie? Are you someone who likes tech? Because you've mentioned it twice, so I'm like, I bet you're a techie.
I feel like a capital T techie is a big title.
Sure.
I can't play with like the Mark Saltzmans of the world who always know
Okay.
the latest gadget. Love that guy, but
He's great. He's so
he's
great.
great. He's so great.
What I
But
like about him is how he distills his knowledge in a very friendly, non-tech kind of way. And you know he knows
yes,
everything about anything tech, right?
truly anything. He knows everything. He's so smart. But yes, he's so eye level. And I just appreciate what he does so much. So I always learn from him when I'm talking to him. But I am into technology. I recently actually got a certificate in artificial intelligence from the University of Oxford. So I
Congrats.
thank you. I'm very interested in the intersection of audio and AI, and I feel genuinely curious when new technology comes out, and I love to just play around and experiment with it. I'm not an expert in it all, but I'm definitely one of the people who are intrigued by it and not shying away or scared of learning
Right.
a new
I
technology.
AI kind of frightened me at first, and then I was like,
Hmm.
I need to try it. So I opened up a new Gmail account where
Wow.
it couldn't connect with me because I was all nervous about it. And now it's changed my life for the better. I use it to
So
help
good.
me, and some of my students use it now for podcasting, for designing their logo, and a whole bunch of things. It's pretty
It's
incredible.
great. Yeah,
All
it's
right,
very powerful.
shift. Oh, before that, I just want to ask: is there a piece of tech that you have that you really enjoy, or it has changed your life?
Mm. So, well, one that okay, I'm gonna give two answers because
Great.
one is more like a software, so I don't know if it
Okay.
counts as tech, but I
Of
will
course.
say, and this is not paid, this is just
Amanda,
genuinely,
on this podcast, everything counts. So
yeah.
whatever you want to say.
So Calendly, which is the booking software, when I that has been a game changer for me. So this is, if you don't know Calendly, or some people use Acuity. There's lots of different versions of this. Google also, I think, has just released a lean version of this where you can sync it up with your calendar and it could show your availability, but you could create different versions of your availability for different people and send it to them to book time in your calendar. And so I was just, the amount of time I saved from going back and forth with people, and I was like, do I get a virtual assistant? And no, I just got Calendly. And that saved me so much time with booking, and because I have a lot of meetings and these sorts of connections, like even interview requests, it's been very easy to lean on that. I use that all the time. So even with my own team at Lead Podcasting, they will check my Calendly to see when they can grab some time with me. But it's great. Prevents that back and forth. So that's like a software, really. It's not something you're holding in your hand. Um, but as far as something that you would hold in your hand, I do feel like, and again, maybe a loose definition of technology, but I am such a fan of massage.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
And I have a hand massager.
Is it like
So
the one that punches? We call it a puncher. It kind of punch. It has like a little bulbous end and it can punch.
it's no, those
No,
are
okay.
that's good too, but this is literally, it looks like a giant glove, like a plastic glove that you put
Mhm.
your hand in, and then it like moves and heats, and like it's and I have carpal tunnel.
Oh, so it
So
massages your hand.
your whole hand.
I thought you
Yeah.
put it on like the Hulk gloves that kids wear, and then you massage people with it, but it's for your
No, it's
hands. Oh,
for
this is amazing.
massaging your own hands.
Oh, I love
Yes.
this.
It's so nice. And so and my husband bought it for me because he knows. And I think I grip the mouse really tightly when I'm working and editing. So, yeah, it's like a hand massager. It's amazing.
Isn't it amazing how something like that can change your life?
Yes.
We recently got, and I don't know if we've mentioned this on the podcast yet. We had to replace our mattress, so we got a platform to put the mattress on that can
Mm,
raise up and down your feet up, your feet down, and whatnot. Right? Because
how is
my wife was
that?
like, "I'm tired of propping up pillows behind my head to watch the television." Yes, we have a television in our room, and it's probably not good for people who can't sleep, but that's where we are. And so we were like, "Oh, let's get that." And then we realized it has a massage feature, like it'll, and it's changed our life. It
Wow.
actually helps us fall asleep quicker. And oftentimes, it's like I just need to raise my feet and give them a shake. And so that's what we
Wow.
do. It's
Okay, I'm gonna
incredible.
need the link to that. You got to put
Yeah,
that in the show notes too.
I'm happy to. It's funny. We went when we went to the mattress store to get it. Amanda was laying on it, and she's like, "Oh, this is great. I can go up." And we're like, "What's the difference between these two besides price?" And the person who was helping us was like, "Oh, there's no real difference." She's like, "The only difference is you can lower the legs on the more expensive ones." So Amanda's like, "Oh, we might want that feature," and she got on it, And when I went to go sign some paperwork or whatnot, I got back and I could see her shaking on the bed. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, it has a massage feature. And I'm like, is it good or is it silly? And she's like, it's fantastic. So I'm like, okay, we're getting that. And we haven't regretted it since. Uh,
Amazing. Oh, I am so jealous. That
uh,
sounds amazing.
it's great. I love talking to people who have like, like this hand thing that you're to the hand massager sounds
Yeah.
fantastic too. I'm a hand model too, which is a weird thing
I
that
didn't know that.
it's the weirdest thing. And when I tell people, and it's so an uninteresting thing on my end of things, but it's so unique that people find it very interesting. I just have very still hands. So if I hold a product,
You could,
it features it
oh,
well. It's one of the
wow.
reasons. So I should get that because, after a
Yeah.
day of handwork,
They deserve some
yeah,
pampering.
right? Speaking of pampering, what's the most memorable vacation you've ever taken?
I'm a big traveler,
Oh,
Marco.
well, listen, I
We could
then
go
I
around
had
the
to meet you
world.
because we're big travelers too. So I need to hear this.
Okay, can I pick three places?
As many as you
I
want.
always
Yeah.
ask. Okay, so I just very first is the recent one. I very recently went to Malta, south of Sicily. It's
Mhm.
amazing. All right, Malta is the most underrated country. I almost stayed there and just did a PR campaign for the whole
Oh my
country
goodness.
because
Did you
it
go to
was
the Popeye Village that's there? Did you go to the Popeye
no.
Village?
I
Okay.
you do have you been
I
to
haven't,
Malta?
but Amanda,
Okay,
my wife, really
yes.
wants to go to Malta.
Okay,
And
I'll
I'm
give
like,
you the lowdown.
okay, you've
Popeye
heard it here
Village,
first.
yes, Popeye Village is run down. Okay, don't go. It's
Okay.
like Robin Williams movie, which is in theory cool, but we saw photos of it and it's a little bit out of the way and they are proud of it, but it's not. I don't think it's worth it because there's so many better things. Okay, so
Okay.
Malta has the oldest ruins that indicate there was a civilization. Older than
Amazing.
the pyramids, older than Stonehenge, oldest indicator of civilization is in Malta. They don't even talk about it. And it is this underground multi-floor temple with paintings that are still on the walls that they found sculptures that were incredible that were from like 5000 BC,
I love it.
they think, right? And they didn't have tools. They were using stone on stone to create, like it was, and they only let 10 people in at a time, and you can walk down there and go see it. And we got our hands on some tickets. And so
Oh,
the history, if you're a history buff, and I love good history, I was emotional. It was really special, and I had no idea. And then they also have really beautiful beaches. Like the water is so clear, and it's like all these little islands around Malta that you could take a little boat to, and you're like the only one on this beach, and it's like stunning crystal clear blue waters. And then they also have amazing food. It's like Arabic and Italian food
yeah.
mixed.
Yeah.
So what more can you ask for? It was just like so nice, so
It's
beautiful.
a place
Yeah,
of intersection with absolute beauty. I can't wait to
yeah,
go.
yeah. So add that to your list. Okay, that
Okay.
was one. Number two is Ecuador, which I
Oh, okay.
feel like is underrated as well. And I did the Galapagos
Wow.
islands, which were amazing. I was snorkeling. You don't even have to. I have a scuba license, but you don't even have to scuba. You just snorkel down.
Wow.
I held a starfish the size of both my hands. I snorkeled with eagle rays, which is a very weird offshoot of a stingray.
Oh
They
my
have like a
goodness.
human face on them. It's very interesting.
I'm writing that
I
down, Eagle Ray.
yes, eagle rays, sharks. I swam with sharks, turtles that were the size of my body, like incredible. But then on the other side, I was in the Amazon and I spent 3 nights in the jungle
Wow.
with like monkeys jumping over a river that I was canoeing down, and I saw a real life tarantula in the you know in the greenery that was the forest. And they said they don't even know all the species of bugs and insects that live there yet. And then you get like in the city, Quito is like bumpin' party, really great central city. And then we went to Cuenca, which had like Incan ruins, and you
My
think the
goodness.
ruins are only in Peru, but Ecuador's got the same sort of thing. So like, wow, like the vastness. If you travel that country, it's just like incredible.
It sounds like a pendulum swings like to the beginning of time and nature and creatures that you like. The pendulum swings one way, you get to the beginning of time and creatures and animals that people don't get to see, and then it swings the other way, and you're in a modern city with you know happening things. It sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. It is. It was really something
And
special.
it's
And then
hot too, right? It's really
and
hot
it's
there.
warm. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
nice. So nice. The third one was Egypt. As you know, I like history. I do love history.
Yeah.
So seeing the pyramids, and I went and swam in the Red Sea and took a cruise down the Nile and drank the best hibiscus tea, um, and learn. And I got to see King Tut's tomb. I went into the Valley of the Kings. It just
Wow.
happened to be open when I was there. They open it, like kind of they roll. There's a rolling opening of different
Right.
tombs. So I happened to be able to go see King Tut, which is actually, King Tut's tomb is very bland because they didn't think he was going to die. He was so young. I
Right.
wasn't prepared. But then there was other incredible tombs in the Valley of the Kings that made me emotional. Like it was really, really special. So
Ah,
yeah,
that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for those three places. We're often
yeah,
talking about places we want to go to or places we visited, and we have our listeners from all over the world who reach out. And some of our listeners will tell us places to go to, and we just have such a great time when we end up in those places. So
oh,
I
I love
appreciate that.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so special.
If you're ever in Ottawa, there's a spa that one of our listeners invited us to go to, which is called Nordique. It's in Chelsea, Quebec, and I every time I go or every time I mention it to one of my friends and they go and they have such a great time, I'm always like, one of my listeners reached out and told us about it, and I'm so grateful.
That's so nice. I've heard of this. I've never been though, so I've got to add it to the list because, as you know, I love a massage. I love a spa, so got to add it.
Well, there you go. So, as we reach the end of this episode, I just want to remind our listeners, if you're interested in getting Let's Talk Podcasting, the essential guide to doing it right, second edition, you can go to letstalkpodcasting.com, and there's 6 new chapters in it. And let me just set the record straight. This is, if you know anyone who wants to get into podcasting, great Christmas gift or holiday gift, that's the book that I would recommend. And I've written a book about podcasting. And for me, this is the quintessential book. As well, if you need to fall asleep fast and this podcast isn't doing it for you, check out How to Fall Asleep Fast with Amanda, and you'll enjoy that. And if you want to be on the forefront of things or know what's going on in our city, in our country, but it'll relate to places all over the world, check out Forefront with Amanda as the host. Amanda, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so happy to have been able to come on and to talk with your listeners too. And I wish them a restful, peaceful sleep.
Thank you. And well, hopefully you'll come back to our podcast because we'd love to have you back.
Yes, we've got to do this again for sure.
Wonderful. Until then, listeners, I hope you were able to listen and sleep.